My name is Riley Brooks. I'm 32 years old, and a few months ago, my ex-husband's new wife tried to humiliate me in public. She had no idea she was laughing at her own boss. Dinner with investors had gone better than I'd dared to hope. We wrapped up at one of those downtown restaurants where the lights are low, the plates are tiny, and the bill could feed a family of 4 for a month. Soft piano in the corner, crystal glasses, suits that all smelled vaguely of expensive cologne and old money. I sat there for a minute after the last handshake, cradling the last sip of espresso, scrolling through notes on my phone, action items, follow-ups, the usual post-meeting brain noise, when I heard a laugh I hadn't heard in almost 2 years. High-pitched, practiced, the kind of laugh you use when you want everyone to look at you. I didn't have to turn around to know who it was. Kayla Thompson. I lifted my eyes anyway. There she was, across the room. Flawless blowout, a dress that looked like it came with its own PR team, and a table full of people orbiting her like she was the center of the universe. Sales guys, finance bros, the usual chorus of nodding heads. And right there beside her, with his hand resting on the back of her chair like he owned the air around her, was my ex-husband. Oliver. Of course. I considered looking away. Just pay the bill, walk out, go home. I'd rebuilt too much of my life to let two ghosts ruin a good night. But Kayla's radar for attention was sharper than that. Her gaze swept the room, landed on me, and her mouth curled into that same smug smile I remembered from the photos. She tapped Oliver's arm and tilted her chin in my direction. He turned. The change on his face was instant. Surprise, then a flash of discomfort, then the familiar half-smirk he used whenever he thought he had the upper hand. Riley? Oliver's voice carried just enough to be heard at nearby tables. Wow, long time. Kayla twisted in her seat to face me fully, giving me a slow up and down. Well, this is unexpected, she said. Didn't think you still ate in places like this. I figured, I don't know, cafeteria food at some co-working space? The people around her chuckled. I set my cup down, smoothed my blazer, and forced my shoulders to stay loose. Evening, Oliver. Kayla. I kept my tone neutral. No warmth, no venom, just cool. Oh, come on! Kayla's voice turned sugary. Don't be shy. Come say hi. We were just celebrating. I didn't move toward them, but I also didn't leave. I stayed where I was, angled just enough that the distance made it feel like a stage. What are you celebrating? I asked. Kayla lit up like she'd been waiting for the question. Quarterly numbers, she announced. Solar Corp Solutions is absolutely killing it this year. Biggest sales milestones we've ever had. Right, team? Her little audience nodded, eager to agree. Solar Corp Solutions. Of course. The company my ex-husband had traded up into. The company where his new wife strutted around as VP of marketing, wrapped in praise and hairspray. Oliver leaned back, folding his arms. And you? He said, voice soft but loaded. Still, tinkering? What was it again? Something? EcoAve Energy, I said. And no, I sold it. A few faces shifted at that, but Kayla just laughed. Oh, right. The obsession, she said. She used to stay up all night wiring little panels like it was a science fair. I told Oliver, she's chasing sunlight like a kid chasing fireflies. Her table laughed louder. She always had big dreams, Oliver added. Just not a lot of results. One of the men at the table, slick hair, too tight watch, chimed in. Hey, Riley, if you ever need work, I'm sure Kayla could talk to HR. We always need more hands, maybe in maintenance. Somebody's got to clean the panels, right? More laughter. That sharp, mean kind that comes with secondhand embarrassment. I smiled. Maintenance, huh? I said. You might be right. Someone definitely needs to clean up around there. It sailed over their heads. Kayla took a slow sip of her drink, eyes fixed on me over the rim of the glass. You know, she went on, Oliver always said you had potential. You just didn't know when to stop chasing fantasies. You could have had a normal life if you'd listened. That one stung more than I wanted to admit. Oliver looked at me with what he probably thought was pity. It's not too late, he said calmly. You can always start over. Maybe something more realistic this time. I let out a soft laugh. Right, because your version of realistic has always been so inspiring. His jaw tightened for a fraction of a second, that little crack in his composure I used to spot before a fight. Kayla slid her hand over his, staking her claim for the room to see. Anyway, she said, leaning back like she'd won, we're celebrating real results tonight. Jobs, promotions, bonuses, success. She lingered on the word like it was a knife. Good for you, I said. You've earned it. Must be exhausting pretending to know what you're doing every day. That earned me a couple of confused looks. They weren't sure if I was joking or insulting them. I liked that. Kayla rolled her eyes. You always did have a hard time being happy for other people, she said. Not everyone is built for success. That's okay. We need people at the bottom too. That did it. I rose slowly from my chair, buttoned my jacket, and looked straight at her. No raised voice, no drama, just steady, controlled calm. You're right, I said. Not everyone is built for it. Oliver chuckled uncomfortably. Let's not do this here, Riley. Kayla smirked. Don't be salty. It's not a good look. I took a step closer, just enough that she had to tilt her head to keep my gaze. Then you'd better move fast, I murmured. She blinked. What? I let a small, humorless grin curve my lips. Enjoy your remaining days. The table went quiet. Someone forced out an awkward laugh like maybe I was joking. Kayla scoffed. You're still so dramatic, she muttered. No wonder investors ran. I didn't respond. I just turned, walked past their table, and left. Outside, the night air hit cooler than I expected. City lights bounced off the glass towers around me, reflections blurring together as I crossed the sidewalk to my car. Through the restaurant window, I could see them again, still talking, still laughing. Kayla gesturing with her hands like the main character in everyone's story. I unlocked my car, slid into the driver's seat, and just sat there for a minute, hands resting on the steering wheel. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't shaking. I was entertained. Because what none of them knew, not Kayla with her loud confidence, not Oliver with his performative concern, not their little cheering section, was that 6 months earlier, I had quietly signed a set of documents in a law office across town. And with a few signatures under my holding company's name, I had bought Solar Corp Solutions. The same company whose quarterly success Kayla was toasting. The company whose logo decorated all their laptops and business cards. The company she thought she was climbing like a ladder. I owned the ladder. They were just standing on it. I started the car, letting the engine hum while the past began to creep in. Uninvited, but familiar. I'd been quiet once before, swallowed my instincts, let other people tell me what was realistic and what wasn't. And it had almost destroyed me. I grew up in Seattle, the kind of kid who couldn't sit still unless I was building something. While other kids spent weekends at the mall or sneaking into parties, I was in my dad's garage wiring cheap solar cells together, trying to get a single bulb to flicker on. The first time it did, barely, for a second, it felt like I owned the sun. By college, I was the girl who skipped frat parties to 3D print turbine models and adjust simulations at 3 in the morning. Engineering labs felt more like home than any dorm. That's where I met Oliver. Back then, he was charming, loud in a way that drew people in, majoring in business administration. Professors loved him. He knew how to talk, how to pitch, how to make a room feel like it was spinning the way he wanted. He said he liked me because I wasn't like everyone else chasing his attention. I was usually too busy scribbling ideas on napkins to notice. You're going to change the world someday, he told me once, lying on my dorm floor, staring at the ceiling full of taped-up diagrams. At the time, I believed him. After graduation, I started EcoAv Energy, a tiny renewable tech startup with a ridiculous goal: affordable solar systems for regular homes, not just the rich. People thought I was out of my mind. Everyone except Oliver, at least at first. We didn't have much in those early days. Hand-me-down furniture, a cramped apartment, more cables than countertops. But there was momentum, that shared rush of, we're building something. Then the company grew, and stress grew with it. Investor meetings, prototype failures, delays that stretched weeks into months, 16-hour days bleeding together until home felt more like a storage unit than a refuge. I'd come home late, covered in dust and solder burns, and crash next to my laptop. At first, Oliver said he understood. Then, understanding turned into irritation. You care more about those stupid panels than you do about me, he snapped one night, standing in the doorway of my home office. You're married to your job, Riley. I looked up from the circuit I was testing, eyes gritty from lack of sleep. Everything I'm doing is for us, I said quietly, so we're not worrying about rent in 5 years. So we can breathe. He didn't want to hear it. He didn't want logic. He wanted comfort. You're wasting your life, he said. No one is going to buy this stuff. The world doesn't care about your little dream. I swallowed the sting and went back to work. You learn to ignore words when you're too busy trying not to fail. Then came the disaster. The inverter rollout. It was supposed to be our breakthrough. Instead, it became the storm that drowned everything. The inverter rollout was supposed to be EcoAv's moment. We'd spent months designing a new system tailored for small businesses, sleek, modular, affordable. I pitched it as the bridge between someday and right now for companies that wanted to go green but couldn't swallow massive upfront costs. Our first wave of installations went up in cafes, warehouses, boutiques. We celebrated with cheap pizza in the office and warm soda because the champagne budget was still theoretical. For 2 weeks, it felt like the dream was finally stabilizing. Then the calls started. At first, it was 1, then 3, then 10. Units overheating, safety shutoffs tripping in the middle of business hours, breakers flipping, panels underperforming. My inbox flooded with subject lines that made my stomach twist. System malfunction, urgent, customer threatening refund, need answers. Now. We pulled every unit's data. I sat in the dim glow of monitors at 3 in the morning, tracing numbers with trembling fingers while my engineers argued quietly in the corner about possible root causes. The failure rate was bad. Worse than bad, unforgivable. I spent days in a loop of fixing, apologizing, refunding, fielding angry calls, swallowing humiliation. Investors started checking in with that cold tone that said they were already half gone. One afternoon, after a client hung up on me mid-sentence, I stared at my reflection in the black screen of my monitor, eyes bloodshot, hair pulled back into a knot that had stopped being neat 2 days ago, a coffee stain on my collarbone. I barely recognized myself. That night, I went home for the first time in nearly 36 hours. The apartment felt wrong, too quiet, too neat. Oliver was waiting in the living room, sitting on the edge of the couch with his arms folded. His phone lay face down on the coffee table, which was a bad sign. He never put it down unless he wanted me to know I had his full attention. This time, the attention felt like an accusation. "How bad is it?" he asked. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and toed off my shoes. "Bad," I said honestly. "But we can fix it. It's a design flaw. The thermal management in the inverter casing isn't—" He cut me off with a sharp breath. "I don't need the engineering lecture, Riley. I need to know if we're about to lose everything." I swallowed. "If we handle it right, no. We'll take a hit, but we'll survive. We honor warranties, issue refunds where needed, and push the redesign. It'll be brutal for a while, but—" "I told you this would happen." His voice cracked like a whip. I froze. Oliver stood up, pacing once like he was winding himself up. "I told you," he snapped. "You've been obsessed with this company, this fantasy, for years. Every time I asked you to slow down, to think about something stable, you ignored me. And now your little science project is collapsing and dragging us down with it." "It's not a science project," I said quietly. "It's a company, and a setback doesn't make it a fantasy." He barked a laugh. "Setback? Clients are threatening to sue, investors are calling me asking if my wife has lost her mind, and you're still clinging to your soldering iron like it's a life raft." I opened my mouth, then closed it. I was too tired to fight, to explain that every sleepless night was me trying to shield us from exactly this. He walked past me into the hallway. When he came back, he was dragging a suitcase. My voice came out small. "What are you doing?" "What does it look like?" He tossed it on the couch and flipped it open. "I'm not drowning with you, Riley." Something inside me went very, very still. "So that's it?" I asked. "You walk because the road got rough?" "This isn't a rough patch. This is you driving off a cliff and calling it a learning experience." He crossed to the kitchen counter, grabbed a folder, and slammed it down in front of me. "Maybe this will finally wake you up." I stared at the folder, the legal letterhead. My fingers felt numb when I opened it. Divorce papers. The word blurred. He kept talking, his voice dull with rehearsed anger. "You're neglectful. You disappear into that office and call it love. I'm done. The lawyers can handle the rest. I'm not going down with your vision." He said the word like it was a disease. I looked up at him, exhausted beyond anger. "You really think walking away now is going to save you?" I asked. "I think walking away is the only sane thing left," he said. "Sign the papers, Riley. Maybe then you'll finally accept that this dream isn't worth losing everything over." He left without looking back. The door clicked shut, and the silence that followed was heavier than any night alone in the office. I wish I could say I chased after him, that I argued, that I begged. I didn't. I was too tired. I signed the papers. When the lawyers pushed them across the table, handed over what they demanded, watched the settlement strip away years of sweat and sacrifice in a few signatures. In court, Oliver's attorney painted me as neglectful, obsessed, emotionally unavailable. Oliver sat there, hands folded, face carefully wounded. He walked away with a huge settlement and a fresh start. I walked back into my workshop and turned the lights on. 6 months later, word filtered back to me through the same people who had once forwarded me networking events and pitch competitions. Oliver was dating someone new, then engaged, then married. Her name made my eyebrows arch. Kayla Thompson. I looked her up once, late at night, eyes burning from debugging code. VP of Marketing at Solar Corp Solutions. Loud on social media, all caps captions, and perfectly curated shots. Her feed was a highlight reel. Tropical vacations, champagne flutes clinking at rooftop bars, carefully staged, candid laughter. Brunch selfies with Oliver, both of them tanned and glowing, hashtags about finding your person and knowing your worth. Meanwhile, I was sleeping on a couch in an office that still smelled faintly of burnt circuitry. Maybe I should have been furious. Instead, something sharper settled in my chest. Fine, I thought. You want it easy. Take it. I'd take reality. The inverter failure had wrecked EcoWave, but it hadn't killed it. Not yet. I shrank the team down to the people who were still willing to stay in the fire. 5 engineers and 1 intern who considered caffeine a food group. We stripped everything down, redesigned the inverters from scratch, fixed thermal management, rethought installation protocols. I put every failure, every angry email on a whiteboard and refused to look away from it. There were nights I woke up on the office couch with wires stuck to my shirt, my neck aching, my brain still reciting error codes. It was brutal. It was also the most alive I'd ever felt. We clawed our way back one test, one prototype, one honest conversation with a skeptical client at a time. The real turning point came with the school district contract. A small government program wanted renewable installations for public schools. It wasn't glamorous. It didn't come with glossy magazine covers. It came with budget constraints and bureaucratic headaches and a chance to prove we'd learned our lesson. We poured everything into it. 6 months later, I stood in front of a middle school outside Tacoma wearing a hard hat that was slightly too big and a reflective vest over a wrinkled hoodie. Kids were pressed against classroom windows, watching. The project manager hit the switch. Inside, the lights flickered, then held, purely on our power. A ridiculous grin spread across my face before I could stop it. One of my engineers clapped me on the back so hard I stumbled. "Relax," he teased. "It's just electricity. You only spent your sanity on it." "It's not about the lights," I said, staring at the rooftop where our panels soaked in a pale sun. "It's about finally not lying to myself." From there, things snowballed. Our redesigned systems performed better than anything we'd ever built. A sustainability magazine picked up our story. Investors, some old, some new, started calling again, this time with respect instead of condescension. Within 2 years, EcoWave Energy went from a punchline to one of the fastest-growing green energy companies in the state. When the acquisition offers started rolling in, I ignored the first few. Then one landed on my desk, $75 million. I stared at the number for a long time. It wasn't the money that made my heart pound. It was what it represented. Survival. Proof. Closure. I didn't say yes immediately. I spent 2 weeks going over every line of the offer with James, my advisor. We dissected clauses, hunted for traps. I refused to sign away my company, only to watch it be gutted for parts. When everything checked out, I signed. Just like that, the company I'd built from nothing was no longer mine. The night after the sale, the office was empty. My team had gone out to celebrate somewhere loud and crowded. I stayed behind. I walked through the rows of desks, running my fingers along the backs of chairs, past the whiteboard still stained with ghost outlines of old equations. I'd fought for this place like it was a living thing. Letting it go felt like closing a door on a version of myself that had almost drowned. It hurt. It was also necessary. After the sale, I took air wherever I could find it. Iceland, to study geothermal plants and pretend I was just a tourist. Japan, to walk through solar farms that made my early prototypes look like toys. A random week in Italy, where I tried to drink wine and relax and ended up talking battery storage with a vineyard owner until midnight. Classic me. When I finally came home, I decided something quietly, without speeches or social media posts. No more proving anything to anyone. No more loud moves. I became the quiet investor, the woman who showed up with funding for small renewable projects, wave turbines, rural microgrids, a company trying to make solar paint, and then disappeared into the background. I liked it, being the quiet one again. Except this time I had leverage. And just when the calm started to feel real, James called with a familiar name and a problem I couldn't ignore. Solar Corp Solutions. I was sitting at my kitchen table, signing off on a proposal for a team developing off-grid microgrids in rural Alaska when my phone buzzed. James, my longtime business advisor, the man whose calm voice had talked me off more cliffs than I'd admit. He didn't call unless something mattered. I answered on the second ring. "Tell me you're calling with good news," I said, spreading blueprint pages across the table. He exhaled, a sound that usually meant the opposite. "Well, depends on your definition of good," he said. "You might want to look at something. Solar Corp Solutions." I froze. Oliver's New World, Kayla's domain, the company she plastered all over her social feeds. "What about it?" I asked, keeping my voice flat. "They're circling the drain," he said bluntly. "Hard." A pulse thudded behind my ribs. Didn't look like it from the way Kayla bragged about it online. "That's the part that bothered me," James replied. "On paper, everything looks too good, like someone ironed out the wrinkles with a branding iron." I straightened up. "Show me." A few hours later, I was sitting in James's office with a thick folder spread across his desk. Numbers, charts, quarterly reports, all pristine. Too pristine. Profit margins that didn't match real-world cost structures. Expense reports that balanced down to the last cent, which never happens in a real company. Project turnaround times that defied physics. "Someone cooked these," I said. James nodded. "Doesn't just smell wrong, it stinks." I scanned through pages of anonymous internal surveys James had pulled through back channels. Words jumped out. Toxic leadership. Favoritism. Marketing takes credit for engineering innovations. Projects marked complete when they're half installed. Executives spend more on celebration dinners than panel maintenance. Feels like a frat house. Kayla Thompson refuses to approve basic safety upgrades. My jaw tightened. Kayla, Oliver's polished new wife, VP of Marketing, public face of Solar Corp. But behind the scenes, she was running the place like a nightclub with solar panels. James poured 2 coffees and slid one across the desk. "Look," he said, "Solar Corp's not a total dumpster fire, but the rot runs deep. Too deep for surface-level fixes." I leaned back. "And why bring this to me?" He raised an eyebrow. "Because most of the inflated numbers, most of the fake performance metrics," he tapped a page, all tied to one department. I flipped it over. Marketing and Executive Strategy. Division Director, Kayla Thompson. Of course. A soft laugh escaped me. Not amusement, recognition. This was her kingdom, her ladder, her narrative. And it was built on forged reports and other people's work. James studied me. "If you're thinking about investing..." "I'm not thinking about investing," I said. "I'm thinking about buying." He didn't blink. He just nodded once. "In that case," he said, "do it quietly, through a holding company. Keep your name off every piece of paper." Which is exactly what I did. The quiet takeover. Within a month, Solar Corp Solutions was mine. Not publicly, not loudly, quietly, with the same precision I'd used to build EcoAv from scratch. Only 3 people knew. James, my attorney, and Pamela, the CEO I brought in through my holding group, sharp, ethical, and allergic to corporate nonsense. She was one of the few people whose loyalty I didn't have to question. The kind of leader who didn't need to shout to be heard. "I'll clean house," she told me on her first day, flipping open her tablet. "But I'll do it subtle. You'll have eyes on everything. They'll think you're just another silent investor." Perfect, because I didn't want attention. I wanted clarity. And I wanted the truth before making my move. For the next several months, I spent nights in my home office reading through reports, internal memos, and department logs. Kayla's name popped up everywhere, approving inflated budgets, signing off on half-installed projects, taking credit for junior engineers' work, pushing fake efficiency metrics into company-wide presentations, bragging about numbers she didn't understand and didn't check. She was a one-woman PR machine, but beneath that shiny facade, she was burning the company from the inside out. I didn't intervene. Not yet. I watched, measured, studied her arrogance, let her believe she ruled the empire. She strutted through the building like she owned it, talking down to engineers, throwing manufactured tantrums at project managers, and planning celebration dinners for milestones she'd faked. Her inner circle, the same people who laughed at me at the restaurant, followed her around like backup dancers. Every day, they dug deeper holes with sloppy approvals and sloppy ethics. And every day I collected receipts. The night everything changed. Then came the dinner. Kayla laughing at me across the restaurant, calling me unrealistic, a failure, a dream chaser who never grew up. Oliver smiling like he was trying not to flinch. Their friends mocking my little solar hobby. Me, Sitting there with a calm smile while they celebrated quarterly results, I'd let them believe they earned. Let them enjoy their show. Let them savor their stage. Because the moment I walked out of that restaurant, a switch flipped inside me. I'd spent months watching them rot the company, months biting my tongue, months planning. But that night, that was the last time anyone would laugh at me with confidence that wasn't theirs. I drove home in silence, thinking about every lie Kayla had sold, every shortcut she'd taken. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I had already decided, no more observing, no more patience, no more quiet. I walked into my office, flicked on the desk lamp, and called James. He answered on the second ring. "I take it the dinner didn't go well," he said dryly. "You could say that," I replied. "Kayla and her little entourage decided to hold a roast in my honor." He chuckled. "I told you something smelled off with that one." "Good," I said, "because I think I just found the source." I heard papers shuffle on his end. "You ready to finally pull the trigger?" he asked. I smiled, cold, controlled, inevitable. "Prep everything," I said. "I'm done playing nice." The scandal begins to surface. 2 days later, James walked into my office with a folder so thick he had to use 2 hands to set it down. "Buckle up," he said. "This is worse than we thought." He flipped it open, and there it was. Fake project budgets, expense accounts for vendors that didn't exist, leaked design documents sent to Sunline Technologies, correspondence between Kayla and a so-called consultant who turned out to be a shell identity tied to Kayla's personal accounts, completed installations that were half-finished or dangerously wired, bribed inspectors, safety complaints she'd buried. It wasn't just incompetence. It was deliberate rot. Kayla wasn't just toxic. She was a liability. I leaned back in my chair, letting the weight of it settle. The same woman who had mocked me for chasing fantasies? She'd built her entire empire on fraud. "It's time," I said quietly. James nodded. "Then we move, fast." What came next became known, at least on my end, as Project Sunset. The day I would turn off the lights on Kayla's kingdom. I named the folder Project Sunset for one simple reason. When this was over, the sun was going to set on Kayla Thompson's entire illusion. And she would watch it happen with the lights fully on. The 2-day war room. The next 48 hours were a blur of action, sharp, surgical, and utterly without hesitation. My home office transformed into something that resembled a crime investigation board. Sprawling printouts taped across my wall, USB drives labeled by date and department, a timeline running along my desk, highlighters bleeding neon color across every irregularity. I didn't sleep. I didn't bother pretending to eat. Coffee became my bloodstream. Every fake vendor invoice, every doctored budget, every fraudulent performance report, every leaked design document. I cross-referenced them with timestamps, approvals, email metadata. Each piece fell into place like I was assembling Kayla's self-made noose. By the time I finished, the evidence binder was thick enough to knock someone unconscious. Honestly, I thought about using it that way. James handles the legal arm. James, meanwhile, ran point with legal and compliance teams, quietly, discreetly, through channels that didn't raise alarms. He had corporate attorneys verifying each document, a forensic accountant confirming the financial fraud, compliance staff gathering employee complaints, internal audit reviewing, access logs and database records. When he dropped a second binder on my desk, he simply said, "This is felony-level stupidity." I breathed out slowly. "This is exactly what we needed." Step 1. Cut their access. I sent a message to IAT under Pamela's authorization. Effective immediately. Implement silent restriction protocols on marketing and executive strategy, division financial accounts. Dashboard visibility remains. Modify no permissions that would alert the users. In plain English, Kayla could see her accounts. She could click on her accounts. But if she tried to transfer even $1, I would know before she did. She was holding a steering wheel that wasn't connected to anything. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Step 2. Choke the budgets. Next, I sent a directive through Pamela. Flag all spending requests from Kayla's division for manual approval. Delay responses. Request documentation for everything. It would take a few days for Kayla to realize her team's projects were running out of money. She would assume it was a glitch. Then she would blame it. Then she would blame procurement. Then she would blame everyone except herself. I'd seen the pattern 1,000 times. Step 3. Set the stage. I called Pamela myself. She answered instantly. "Riley," she said, "I had a feeling you'd be calling." "I need the quarterly review moved up," I told her. "How soon?" "As soon as humanly possible." She didn't hesitate. "I'll have the boardroom ready by Friday." "And Pamela," I added, "invite the department heads and send a formal notice that an investor representative will be present." "Your name?" she asked. No, I said. Just refer to me as company ownership. Pamela paused just long enough to catch the implication. Then she said quietly, Understood. Step 4. Prepare their grave. For the next 2 nights, I built the presentation. Slide by slide, line by line. I didn't embellish, I didn't exaggerate, I didn't add drama. The truth was damning enough. My opening slide. Solar Corp Solutions. Internal Integrity Audit Summary. Confidential presenter. Ownership. Simple. Cold. Effective. The next slide. Financial discrepancies, marketing and strategy division. Then, fake vendor. Accounts budget inflation. Data leaks to competitor. Project misrepresentation. Safety violations. Employee complaints. Bribed inspectors. Every bullet point backed by receipts. Every receipt was timestamped. Every timestamp traced directly back to Kayla or her inner circle. I ended the presentation with a single sentence on a blank white slide. We don't build illusions. We build energy. That was all. Thursday night. Final check. Late Thursday, Pamela sent me a brief message. All executives notified. Kayla is leading the presentation. She thinks she's about to impress investors. This will be fun. I let myself smile for the first time in days. Kayla thought she had the spotlight. She didn't realize she was standing on a trap door. I spent the night checking over every file one last time, sliding them into the Project Sunset binder until it closed with a satisfying heaviness. This wasn't revenge. This was cleanup. This was accountability. This was the moment I stopped letting people write narratives for me. Oliver, investors, the court, the trolls who called me delusional for building solar panels in a garage. Kayla thought she'd risen by stepping on other people. Tomorrow, she'd discover the ground wasn't stable, because I owned the floor. Friday. The showdown begins. I woke early. I dressed simply, tailored slacks, a crisp blouse, a blazer that made me look like exactly what I was. Someone who made decisions. Someone who didn't need noise to be powerful. When I walked into Solar Corp headquarters, the receptionist smiled automatically. Good morning, welcome. Do you have an appointment? She didn't recognize me. She had no idea she technically worked for me. No appointment, I said. I'm here for the quarterly review. Before she could ask further, Pamela appeared from the hallway, tablet in hand, expression unreadable. Ms. Brooks, she said, they're already inside, shall we? Oh, yes. Let's. The empty silence before the fall. Outside the boardroom, through the frosted glass, I could hear Kayla's voice. Loud, confident, performative. She was starting her presentation early. Of course she was. I pressed my palm to the cool metal door handle, took one steady breath, and pushed it open. The room fell quiet. Kayla's smirk spread across her face like she'd been waiting for this moment. Well, well, she said loudly, if it isn't the woman who couldn't keep a company or a husband. Her inner circle laughed. I walked to my seat. Calm, controlled, unshaken. I'm here, I said evenly, to destroy you. The laughter died instantly. Even Pamela looked like she had to fight a smile. Kayla blinked. What? I folded my hands on the table. You heard me. Her jaw clenched. Let's keep things professional, she snapped. If you're here to learn about real results, sit quietly. Oh, Kayla, I said softly. I'm not here to learn. I leaned back. I'm here to teach. And then I connected my laptop to the projector. Project Sunset appeared on the screen. The room held its breath. And for the first time, Kayla looked nervous. For a heartbeat, the room didn't move. Kayla stood frozen at the front, laser pointer still in her hand, smile cracked at the edges, confidence flickering like a dying bulb. Behind her, her inner circle shifted in their seats, unsure whether to smirk or brace for impact. The giant screen glowed with the title slide I'd prepared. Solar Corp Solutions. Internal Integrity. Audit Summary. Confidential Presenter. Ownership. There was no mistaking it. This wasn't part of Kayla's deck. This wasn't part of anyone's deck. I could hear my own heartbeat, steady and unhurried. Kayla finally forced out a laugh. Too loud, too high. Wow, she said, clapping her hands once. That's cute. Did you make a little slideshow to, what, get attention? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The silence did the work for me. Her eyes darted to Pamela, who stood by the door like a quiet sentinel, tablet in hand, expression unreadable. Pamela wasn't here to save her. No one was. Kayla cleared her throat. Let's get back to the real quarterly review. No, I said. That single word sliced through the room. All eyes snapped to me. Kayla stiffened. Excuse me? I stood slowly, the click of my heels on the polished floor painfully loud in the stillness. I think, I said, we should begin with the truth. The projector hummed as I clicked to the next slide. The numbers that exposed everything. Slide 2 appeared. Marketing and strategy. Division reported quarterly growth, plus 20%. Actual growth, should 12%. A ripple of shock swept across the table. The CFO leaned forward, squinting at the numbers. Kayla's laugh cracked. That's not accurate. This is manipulated data. I cut her off with a calm explanation. These numbers come directly from Solar Corp's own servers, pulled by internal audit, verified by third-party forensic accountants. Click. Slide 3. Fake vendor accounts. 7. Shell corporations connected to personal bank accounts. Invoices paid. 2.4 M. Someone swore under their breath. Kayla's face drained of color. I never approved. Click. Slide 4. Data leaks to competitor. Sunline Technologies design. Blueprints. Forwarded. 14 files. Payment transfers to consultant. Account. Logged and verified. The room erupted in whispers. One executive turned slowly to look at Kayla like he was seeing her for the first time. Pamela placed a thick folder onto the center of the table. Here are physical copies, she said softly. Cross-referenced with email logs. Kayla's voice cracked. Pamela, why are you doing this? Pamela didn't look at her. She looked at me, because she knew who really ran this room. The grand reveal. Kayla tried again. Who even are you to present this? You're just a shareholder. Barely. I stepped forward, letting the quiet build a moment longer. Then I said it. My name is Riley Brooks. A few people murmured. They'd seen headlines about Ecoav, the woman who'd built a solar company from nothing. But they didn't understand. Not yet. I clicked to the next slide. 6 months ago, Solar Corp Solutions was acquired by Brooks Holdings and Energy Ventures. A hush fell like a blanket. Kayla blinked slowly, lips parted. No, she whispered. Yes, I said. I purchased this company 6 months ago, silently, through my holding company. I let the words land. I own Solar Corp Solutions. Total silence. Confusion. Shock. Fear. All blooming on their faces. Kayla shook her head violently. No, this is some kind of joke. Oliver, tell them. Oliver wasn't here. He wasn't even invited. And everyone knew it. I clicked again. The evidence wall. Slide after slide poured onto the screen. Digital receipts of untethered expense approvals, inflated marketing campaign budgets, project status reports marked complete, despite photos of panels wired backwards, bribed inspectors, leaked documents, fake subcontractors, ghost accounts tied to Kayla's personal email. With each slide, her world cracked further. No, this is personal, she screamed, fists clenched. You're doing this because of Oliver, because you're bitter. I tilted my head slightly. You sabotaged your own company, I said quietly. I just turned the lights on. Her chest heaved. Someone at the table laughed nervously, because what else do you do when watching a corporate meltdown? The CFO pinched the bridge of his nose. Oh, dear God, he muttered. This is catastrophic. The final blow. Kayla tried one last desperate move. You can't fire me, she shouted. I'm the backbone of this company. I lifted my hand. Security. 2 guards entered the room, badges visible, stance firm. Kayla spun on them. Don't you dare touch me. I'm a vice president. You were, I corrected. Past tense. Her inner circle began talking over each other. It wasn't my idea. I didn't know. She told us. I only signed because... I ignored them. Please escort Ms. Thompson and her team from the premises, I said calmly. Immediately. Kayla thrashed as the guards approached. You can't do this! You psychotic little... You're nothing! You were nothing! I met her wild, furious eyes with a cool stare. That must be exhausting, I said, believing your own lies. The guards ushered her and her shaking entourage out of the room. The door closed behind them with a satisfying click. Silence reclaimed the space. I turned to the room. This company, I said, will no longer be run by fraud, ego, or incompetence. I clicked to the final slide. From this point forward, Solar Corp builds energy, not illusions. No one spoke, not until Pamela finally exhaled and said with a quiet smile, Welcome to your company, Ms. Brooks. In the span of 30 minutes, I had dismantled the empire Kayla built on lies. And I wasn't done yet. Not even close. By Monday morning, the entire company was buzzing. News traveled fast in corporate hallways. Faster than email, faster than Slack. Faster than gossip deserved to travel. Kayla was gone. Her entire inner circle, gone. And the woman who owned the company had revealed herself. Some employees glanced at me with wide eyes as I walked through the lobby, whispering to each other like they'd just seen a ghost take human form. Other employees, especially the engineers, didn't even hide their relief. People weren't afraid. They were hopeful. Solar Corp hadn't seen hope in a long time. Legal fallout. The house cleaning begins. Solar Corp didn't just fire Kayla and her clique. We pressed charges. 4 counts, depending on the individual. Corporate fraud, data theft, embezzlement, safety violations leading to client damages. Our legal team had already vetted every document. The DA's office accepted the case by Tuesday. Kayla's attorney tried to claim it was all a misunderstanding. The forensic accounting logs didn't misunderstand. Her personal payment trail didn't misunderstand. The leaked blueprint files sent to Sunline didn't misunderstand. Kayla was forced to surrender her devices, her access logs, and a chunk of her dignity. Oliver posted something vague on Facebook about hard times and standing together. Someone screenshotted it and sent it to me. I didn't even bother to react. Operation Sunlight. Pamela and I met every morning at 7:15 a.m. in the executive conference room. Coffee, tablet, whiteboards, a full strategy reboot. We called it Operation Sunlight. A few core changes. Transparent vendor verification. Every supplier had to be verified through 3 channels, not one handshake. Digital approval chains. No more backroom decisions. Every approval was logged, time-stamped, traceable. Real performance metrics. No Kayla-style inflated wins. Only reality. Good or bad, just the truth. Open door policy with field teams. Technicians finally had a voice, and they used it. Zero tolerance for credit theft. Innovations were attributed properly, junior engineers included. Within weeks, the building felt different. Conversations shifted from, I hope I don't lose my job, to, look what I think might improve panel efficiency. The break room stopped being a rumor pit and became something softer, more human. One field technician stopped me in the hall, grease smudged on his forearm. Feels like we're an energy company again, he said, not an ego circus. That line stayed with me for days. The text message I never asked for. One night around 11:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Then I saw the preview. Hey, Riley, I heard what happened at Solar Corp. Just wanted to say, I'm proud of you. You always had a visionary mind. I stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds before the punchline arrived. It's Oliver. Can we talk? Coffee, maybe? I almost laughed. He had guts. I'd give him that. I didn't respond for 2 days. When he sent a follow-up, maybe we should reconnect. It'd be good to catch up. I finally answered. Sure. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., the old cafe near campus. Not because I wanted to see him, but because I wanted closure on my terms. The cafe reunion. He arrived first. Always punctual when he cared about the optics. Designer jacket. New watch. Hair styled with the same precision he used to reserve for job interviews. He stood up when I approached, smile wide and warm. Riley, he said softly. You look incredible. I slid into the seat across from him. You look well-funded, I replied. He laughed, a little too loud. Still the same sense of humor. No, I said, sharper. His smile faltered just slightly. After ordering coffee, he began his speech, clearly rehearsed. I always knew you'd succeed, he said earnestly. I believed in you back then, even when things were hard. I stirred my coffee slowly. No, I said quietly. You believed in me when it was convenient, and you left when it wasn't. He blinked. Things were complicated. No, I repeated. You left because I wasn't easy, because the dream wasn't guaranteed, because you didn't want to carry any weight when things got hard. He lowered his gaze. I made mistakes. You made choices, I corrected. Oliver looked up again, trying a softer smile. I just thought, maybe now that things have settled, we can't, I cut in. He froze. We had our chance, I said, and you ran when the cost rose. I set a few dollars on the table to cover my coffee. Goodbye, Oliver. I stood. He didn't. He just watched me walk out. Quiet, stunned, finally recognizing a truth he'd ignored for years. I didn't destroy anything between us. He abandoned it. A new piece I didn't expect. Solar Corp thrived. In 6 months, the company's valuation climbed 62%. Employee turnover plummeted. New clients returned. Old clients apologized for doubting us. I stopped walking through hallways quietly. People started saying hello with excitement instead of caution. And somewhere in that new cadence, I met someone. Enter Daniel. It happened at a sustainability conference. I'd just finished speaking on microgrid reliability when a man approached me with a quiet smile and sunburned cheeks. Your talk was great, he said. I'm Daniel. I teach environmental science, and I volunteer for clean water projects in rural communities. He didn't mention my company, or my past, or the Solar Corp scandal. He talked about rural filtration systems, renewable solutions for remote regions, how kids in some villages could memorize solar array diagrams faster than adults. His eyes lit up when he talked, genuinely, not performatively. We ended up talking for an hour, then two. Daniel had an ex-girlfriend, someone who didn't understand sustainability as a passion, only as a cute hobby. He didn't resent her. He'd learned from her. For the first time in years, conversation didn't feel like a negotiation or a performance. He didn't want anything from me. He didn't need me to shrink or shine. He just listened. And I exhaled in a way I hadn't realized I needed to. Then the call came. Late one night, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in months. I considered ignoring it, but curiosity won. I answered. On the other end, a woman sobbed. Not crying. Sobbing. Riley, she choked out. I need help. It was Kayla. The woman who had laughed at me, mocked me, tried to humiliate me, now crying into the phone like her world was collapsing, which legally and financially it was. I lost everything, she cried. My accounts are frozen, my house, my jewelry, my name is ruined. Oliver left. I have nothing. She sucked in a sharp breath. This is your fault. I leaned back in my chair. It's not my fault you committed fraud, I said calmly. You embarrassed me, she screamed. You embarrassed him. Everyone knows I was married to Oliver. Everyone's talking. You owe me. No, I said softly, I don't. You have money, success. Can't you just help me restart? Give me something? Anything? I paused. Then said the line I'd waited months to deliver. You traded integrity for shortcuts. Now you have neither. She inhaled sharply, like the air had been punched out of her, and the call ended abruptly. I stared at the phone for a long moment. Then I turned it off, locked my office, and went home. Daniel was on my couch, reading under the warm glow of a small solar lamp we'd designed together, just for fun. He looked up, smiled tiredly. How was work? I smiled back. Peaceful. And it finally was.